It's a beautiful day to knock in some deer bedding here in Minnesota. You can see I got a nice small ridge behind me, which is a perfect terrain feature to make deer bedding. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this ridge hard today and create some awesome deer bedding. So stick with me and I will show you what it looks like when I'm all done. Alright, here's a quick look at what it looks like before I do too much cutting. You can see there's a point here where it drops off, but really it's just a nice little ridge top here, right where the deer want to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to knock this stuff down. We're going to get some sunlight in here and get some good regeneration on this hilltop, create some bedding. Tree species, mostly ironwood, maple, and there's a couple aspen right off the end. So definitely want to get those aspen down to get that regeneration. But the goal is to get sunlight in here. Alright, I'll show you what it looks like when she's all done. Alright, done cutting for the day. It's a little breezy, hopefully you can hear me. But I got this entire ridge top cut in. You can see as I'm dropping trees, I try to provide plenty of spots for the deer to jump off, which I have on both sides of this ridge top. So basically my goal is to try fan the trees out and leave the best bedding feature, which is the ridge top, open. And then I also want to leave some pockets on that southerly exposure, so if we do have a really strong northwest wind, they can tuck up on that southern face. Again, most of the trees were maple and ironwood in this one. A few basswoods, a couple elm, one or two ash. So not really anything for hinge cutting, but I got a massive hole in the canopy, and that is the goal on this one. We want good hardwoods regen here, because if I'll try to zoom out to the rest of the property, you can see it's just closed canopy, big wide open park like timber. That is not deer habitat, but getting these trees on the ground, getting some structure in here, and ultimately getting that sunlight, that is deer habitat. And you can see on this one I got a lot of big trees down. I mean, there were a lot of those medium to small size trees, but I did have some big ones I needed to knock down. Now that's great bedding structure. All these down logs are potential future deer beds. You can see we got, even like right there, even a nice little spot like that. That's a spot, as this regen blows up, a deer might want to tuck in. Here's kind of a spot just below that crest of the hill here. And again, I left kind of little pockets for deer to bed up and tuck in here. And they kind of work their way all the way along this southerly exposure. Deer love this down structure. This is food, this is cover for the deer. I mean, it is April right now, but we did just have a major snowstorm, so I am sure the deer are going to be in browsing on this stuff. I mean, it is melting fast, only a couple inches left. This is a great time of year to be cutting, because we're feeding the deer, and then now we have an entire growing season for this huge cut to blow up and regenerate. This was kind of a fun thing about this cut. We have these little balsams that are popping out here. I mean, they were sitting in the shade before, so they really didn't stand a chance. But now that we got them opened up, they're going to add a little bit of that thermal component to this bedding cut. I mean, there's a few here. There's one over there. You can see a couple scattered over there. We are going to have, or the landowner is going to plug in some spruce here, some white spruce, to add even a little bit more diversity and a little bit more of a thermal cover component, but probably literally just a dozen trees. And this cut has got to be 3/4 of an acre, if not an acre. So it's not going to be a ton of trees, because we do have quite a few of these little balsams popping too, but it's nice to add in that thermal cover, add in that diversity, and give the deer something else to hone in on, because they love these isolated conifers in these bedding cuts. And again, we're looking, this is the northern side of this cut, but lots of jump offs. Boom, boom. It's nice to have these hillsides just to dump the trees down, but I do want to leave open spots for the deer to escape. Look at that nature's hinge cut right there. But yeah, made sure I have, and this is kind of working the northern side of this cut, but I got a nice trail meandering all the way through the north side of this one. Sorry to all you maple syrupers out there. I love maple syruping myself. But there are a ton of maples on this property, and sometimes deer habitat wins over doing the old maple syrup and leaving a bunch of maples. They were wet today though. Got all this snow on the ground, so good sugar snow as they call it. I'm sure my buckets are probably overflowing at home. But did drop quite a few maples. Here's another one. Look at how wet that thing is. My chain was actually throwing sap. All right, here's kind of the center part. I mean, there's the top of the knoll, and we kind of have these little benches going on this one, real subtle, but these are those terrain features that the deer really hone in on. This is actually the part of the ridge where we found a couple of beds. They were just sitting down kind of on this bench feature. So again, got the trees down and left big open runs, but this main middle is nice and open, and it is going to blow up with regen, and there's going to be all kinds of structure for the deer to bed next to as this regen, which is food and cover, blows up. I did knock down some real big aspen, and that was something that I was really excited to see. I mean, it's just really labor intensive when you're doing a true aspen cut where it's all aspen, but so I don't love cutting it when it's all aspen, but it's nice when I find these spots where there's just a handful of aspen, because I know this whole area is going to blow up in aspen regen. I mean, we got aspen shoots. Like all the little stuff that's growing right here are aspen shoots. So with all this sunlight that we have now, this whole side of this bedding bench, or this bedding ridge, should blow up in aspen regen and create an awesome thicket. So yeah, the only reason I don't like cutting in aspen bedding is because it's just really kind of sucks. It's a lot of work. But again, if that's all you got to work with what you got, and you can make some incredible bedding areas. And also though, to know with aspen, if you do have marketable timber, please just get the loggers to do the work for you. It's so much easier than cutting it in yourself. Because look at this. I mean, I had, I don't know, maybe a dozen of these big dogs I cut today. Now imagine like you got an acre's worth of this. I mean, you are crawling through it because it gets super thick, super fast. So here was right below the southern exposure, there's a kind of a work trail that we're going to leave in, just so he can access back here if he needs to do some work in the spring or early summer. But knowing that trail was there, and it's not going to be a spot that he's going to be, you know, going through as we get close to the hunting season, and we'll let it sit quiet and won't be an access spot or anything like that. But I did want to screen that work trail off just because I want as much security up here as possible. So I did throw these trees down the hill just to kind of add a little screening component for that maintenance trail that's kind of right at the bottom of the hill. What I think will happen with this cut is I mean, I know the bucks are going to be running right through the center of this, but I think also on those northwest wind days, they might start to use that maintenance trail a little bit to scent check this bedding area and run through that bottom. Because a lot of times when you are in ridge country, those bucks will end up running those swales a lot, kind of scent checking some of these good bedding knolls. So I think that spot, I'm kind of glad I was able to throw trash that way to screen off this bedding, just add a little extra element of security. And here's kind of the end of this one. So again, I worked my way all the way out to a marsh that's right there. And there is also another marsh right there, so we kind of got one of those skinny pinches going on right here. So I cut my way right out to there so I could get good sun coming in here. And again, you know, with this is not so much about the topography, but this is more about the terrain, in that we got a marsh on either side. So this funnel right through here sets up well for bedding. So I wanted to start working my way through here. Actually did hinge an elm right there. I made a nice little bed right up in there. One of maybe 8 or 9 trees I hinged today. And there was a nature's hinge cut up in there, so I kind of cut a hole looking up that direction. But this is another one of those spots that deer love for bedding. I mean, you think it almost acts like a swamp island right here when I got a marsh on either side. So they can sit in there and they can feel like they have a great view or a great vantage of kind of the open areas on either side. So this is a spot I took the bedding cut right down into, because I want to keep this cut going. Probably leave maybe 10-15 yards of trees not cut here. But if I zoom in up and over there, you can see where a couple trees fell, and there's some ironwood starting to regenerate and a beautiful little knoll. Well, I want to get a cut going over there eventually too. And then what ends up happening is I got a cut over there. There's actually quite a few more cuts that are going to be up that direction. I got my cut over here. I had the landowner working on a spot over there that I'll finish this summer. So we're linking up all these cuts, and we're going to create a very predictable line of movement during the rut where the bucks are going to be running all these linked up cuts. And I tell you what, that is, when you do this, that is just some of the most fun you're going to ever have hunting. It's fun to see the results from all the work you did, but man, it creates predictable buck movement. And this is just, I mean, this was a huge cut today, but this is just one step, one small part of the plan. It's all going to come together. It's going to be a lot of work, but over time it'll all link up, and there's going to be a very predictable line of movement through this property. All right, well, that was the project for today. We are both good and tired. Gonna sleep good tonight. I mean, it is, I just turned 40. Lifting those big logs is kind of kicks your butt a little bit. But I do try to work out throughout the winter so that when I do this stuff I don't hurt myself. But definitely still good and tired. It was a fun cut today. Fun project. It'll be awesome to watch how this one blows up over time and hear how the hunting is. All right, y'all take care. God bless.